Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Eugene of Jinjer to talk about Alive in Melbourne, out November 20th on Napalm Records. How are you doing?
Hi guys, I'm fine. It's been a long and very busy and very productive day. It's 15 minutes to 10 p.m. in Ukraine. Uh, yeah, just I'm feeling great. Ready to do this final interview, and then I'm done
You're done
for
for
the
the
rest of
day.
the night.
Yeah, you're done for the day. So
Yeah.
let me ask you about this live album. Growing up, were you into live records? Did you enjoy your favorite bands releasing live albums?
Well, I actually enjoyed a few, for sure. First of all, I think the first live album I got into my hands was actually Nirvana, and it was not unplugged. It was a cassette entitled "From the Muddy Banks of the Wishka" or something like that, and it collected. It wasn't one and the same show, if I'm not mistaken. It was just collected songs from this and that show. I think best versions, live versions of songs. And actually, I loved that cassette. I loved. I remember myself being 13 years old, 14 years old, and no, a bit younger. I think I was 12 and 13. Yeah, I know. I constantly listened to that cassette. It was very entertaining because the songs, they were slightly different for the reason that they couldn't play it same well on stage as they did in the studio, and for the reason that they of course went crazy on stage and played in a dirty way, but also there was some kind of this energy vibe which you could feel through the record, and it was cool. I really loved it. And later on, I remember I listened. I was way older. I think 5 years after that, I was in my late teens. I think 16, 17 years old. I loved listening to Pantera, and it was 101 Proof. Yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah, thing. And I loved that record also. So and a couple of others. So I cannot say that I'm a big fan of live albums, but some of them throughout my life at certain periods really had an impact on me because I felt on those records that there was something different there. Not just playing those songs exactly the same way they were performed on a record, studio record, but you know, energy, live vibes, and slightly different way to perform those songs.
So considering the impact that those live albums had on you, what does this live album, Alive in Melbourne, represent for the band?
I think that first of all, first of all, it is worth saying that this live album, first of all, represents normal life
Yes.
for the band, and I hope for the fans, because that was actually one of the last shows to perform under those old rules when there were no rules. Yeah, no social distancing. Yeah, just motion till the end. Push people as much as you can into a venue. Let them, be squeezed like that, and it's all right. Everybody was happy. So this is the main reason why this live record should stand out for everybody, because that was still a normal show performed during the last days before everything just fell down. Yeah, and also I must say that most of good things happen spontaneously, and I kept saying in many interviews before talking about live album that we never planned it. We never planned it, and we decided during the sound check to record that show. And somehow, maybe it helped to play well because in most of the cases, when I know that I am being recorded, I'm nervous.
I was going to ask you
Yeah.
that if you were, because I know you And I know you're a perfectionist. You always look at every night that you go on stage. I need to do better than I did the night before. Even if the night before you were flawless and the whole band was flawless, you're like, there's still room for us to be even better. So you always feel that way.
Almost that way. Sometimes it happens flawlessly. Sometimes I or the others, we all together play flawlessly. And it is always very, very difficult to play next night because you are under pressure. You know that most probably you won't be able to perform at the same level because there are so many things which should match, so many features, options, elements which should match to make a perfect show. There are hundreds of these things, hundreds, and it is very difficult to make them match. And sometimes it just doesn't depend on you. It doesn't depend on you. A stage might be bad, sound in the room might be bad acoustics, I mean. You might just feel bad, you might be tired, and all this spectrum of elements, it's hard to find them match. And once you play a flawless show, next time, next very day on the same tour, it is very hard to play, to go on stage and realize that you might be not as good as you were just yesterday. And yeah, so it's always difficult, first of all. And that night, those shows in Australia, actually, all of them were good. All of them were good. That very night in Melbourne, I actually have to say that it was hard to play mentally for various reasons. First of all, it was probably the biggest room we had in Australia, 1,000 capacity. Secondly, I knew there were 12-Foot Ninja, our friends, and once there are good musicians, it's always hard to play because they start to judge you and estimate your performance from a different perspective, not as a fan. And of course, we wanted to, show ourselves in the best way we could. And also, once this is what I was driving at. Once you play flawless shows, and the show before that was very good, it was very hard from this perspective. We went on stage. I myself went on stage, and I knew that it would be hard to perform the same level I did as yesterday, before that, the day before, and all this combination of things put extra pressure on us. And the thing that we decided, we didn't plan to record it, but only decided to do this during the sound check. And I actually forgot about this while I was playing. I totally forgot I was being recorded. It helped me because if this pressure of doing a record just piled on top of everything, I don't think I myself would perform in this way. But I somehow forgot that I was being recorded, and I managed to manage all this inside, nerves and just discomfort. And actually, I played well, and everybody played well. And that was that night when things somehow magically, for no obvious reason, matched. And this is one of the reasons why, again, this record stands out, because we just played well. We played well, Tatiana sang very well, and we performed well. It was not only just standing and playing, we interacted with the crowd. The crowd was singing along all the time.
Yeah.
And
you guys captured that on the CD, on the audio. You guys definitely captured that.
Yeah, and there is this energy. There is this energy which I myself, being a kid, found in Nirvana and Pantera. And this is what I can hear in this live in Melbourne album. We managed to get this vibe and energy of the room on the record, which is also nice. And one of the, I think, minor reasons why I myself find it cool, that actually listening to the last songs, final songs on this record, that was already the 6th of March, and it was my birthday. So I was playing actually on my birthday.
Yeah,
and
my birthday is only a couple of days after yours. We almost share the same birthday. So I remember I remember when you guys were touring in Australia, and I sent you a message for your birthday, and you're always one of the few guys that sends me a private message every time for my birthday, because we have only like 2 or 3 days apart from each other. So I was like, I really appreciate it. So I want to tell you now, I really appreciate it. I know you're on tour, so you have better things to do than to send me a message wishing me a happy birthday. So I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And I'm sure you mentioned something about this live performance. Listening to it, I really felt the audience in it. And this year, I've listened to a lot of live albums, and some of them were not able to capture that energy. Not just the energy from the audience clapping along to the songs or singing along. There's some tracks you could really hear the audience coming through, almost like they're another member of the band. But also Tatiana, and her interaction with the crowd was phenomenal. Like, she really guided you guys across the set list, and you could hear that. It was just really incredible.
Thanks, bro. It's good that people like you manage to catch this. Yeah, like almost the way we do. It's really, it's a good sign. It is a sign of us doing right things. Thank you very much. Yeah, and I just need to add about the audience. I have to admit the fact that the Australians are insane. They are insane. They are very supportive. They are a singing nation. They can sing very well, and it is not connected with us and with the record. But I have to admit the fact that all Australian vocalists in my favorite Australian bands, they sound differently from people from the other world, the other part of the world. Somehow they have something special in their singing, and I have an impression that all Australians are good singers. And what they did as a crowd, before that, I was only in one place where the audience impressed me by their singing this way. It was Chile. In Chile, they were singing louder than we were playing. Yeah, but there were way more people. There were 1,600 people at least in the room.
And the song "Who's Gonna Be the One," I thought that one was magnificent, because they're finishing Tatiana's sentences. Like, she's singing, but they almost don't let her sing because they finish what she's going to say next. I thought it added so much energy, and it almost made you feel like you were there, because you could almost imagine what was happening on stage on that night.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just, in Russian we say that there is a saying. Literally, if we translate word for word, it will sound like this: all the stars matched with each other. And this is what happened that night. That everything just went perfectly, spontaneously and perfectly at the same time. And again, it makes the record special.
One thing I noticed, well, one thing I asked, the moment that I knew, because you told me months and months ago that this album was coming, but we didn't talk too much about it. So when I talked to the label about the record coming out and for me to check it out to do a review, first thing I asked is there going to be a DVD? And they're like, no, it's just audio. Is there a chance for a DVD in the future? Is that something you guys as a band want to do, a Jinjer DVD?
Absolutely. And we were planning to do so. We had this show a year ago here in Kiev, and we recorded it both on audio and video. And stage-wise, production-wise, it was worth doing a DVD that night. But this is what makes that show in Kiev different from this show in Melbourne. You might be preparing for a show for months and invest tons of money into production, but something just goes wrong. And in Kiev, it was the lights. It just didn't work the way we expected, and it spoiled the whole vibe. It spoiled our attitude to the show. We released only 2 songs from that gig, On the Top and Pit of Consciousness, and then we were done with that show. We didn't feel like releasing Kiev show as a DVD. On the contrary, when we had Melbourne in our hands, first of all, no tours, just no content, nothing coming from live shows. And of course, every band, us, including us, everyone felt at the beginning this shortage of content. And we fortunately had the whole show recorded. And in the comparison with Kiev show, we all together agreed that Melbourne was good enough, or even more than good enough, to be released. Not as a DVD, because video-wise, you can see it on YouTube. Well, it's just a show in a middle-range venue.
Yeah, and it's just like
Yeah,
the camera angles also not the greatest.
yeah, hardcore gig. Camera angles are not the greatest, but in terms of the atmosphere, vibes, performance as musicians, it's just flawless. And that is why it is worth being released as an audio, as a live album. And this is what we are doing now. But for the future, actually, we were planning to come to Argentina this spring and do a DVD. And I think Latin America, or maybe Australia again, who knows? It will be a good idea to do both a live album and a DVD from in Australia, actually. But we don't know. So we have plans to release a DVD, maybe from Latin America or any other places around the world. It is definitely on our list.
I was thinking that you guys on that DVD need to include a little bit of almost a mini documentary of Jinjer on the road. Like up until this pandemic hit, you guys were on the road almost like nonstop. Like you're living off a suitcase pretty much. That's pretty much Jinjer.
Did you get your copy of Alive in Melbourne?
No, I only have the stream audio.
Yeah, if you had it in your hands, and I believe you will, because you must get your copy definitely. There is actually a very special piece of writing in the booklet. There are no lyrics, no this usual stuff. There is something special written, and this is why I'm asking, because a big part of that text is about us being constantly on the road. And the only thing which actually stopped us from doing that, from touring, is pandemics. This is the only thing which stopped us since 2013. So for 7 years, from March 2013 to March 2020, nothing could stop us from tours. We were constantly on the road all the time, playing here and there. And this is, I'm actually talking about this in details in that text in the booklet. So it's like for everyone. Once you get it in your hands, definitely read that piece of the text. It's quite informative.
I think it would be cool if you guys released a DVD and showed a little bit, like, you know, setting up the stage, you guys on the bus.
That's what I was. That's what I was about to say. That definitely when we release a DVD, there will be a big part just devoted to life in general, not only backstage, not only touring aspects, but also just how we live here, where we live, what we do at home when we are not on tour, and things like that. Just I think it will be interesting for the fans to see our lifestyles in close up.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit of a peek behind the curtains, if you will. You know,
for sure. Yeah.
For fans that haven't seen Jinjer live, do you think that this live album will give them the exact picture that you guys as a band want them to have?
Audio-wise, 100%. Audio-wise, 100%. As long as we are not releasing it officially on video, so it's hard to say. But the video eventually will be online. I think
the video was.
We'll put it.
You guys had the concert streamed on notfest.com, right? Was it this show or was it a different show?
Exactly this show, and this is one of the reasons why we decided to release it as a live album, actually, because do you know the story behind it?
No, I don't actually. I know you guys had the show released on Notfest, like the live performance, but I don't know the details behind it.
It failed. We were about to release it as a stream by Notfest on their YouTube channel, and YouTube algorithm blocked the video, so people couldn't see it on YouTube. Yes, people only saw it on Facebook, and Facebook is not as big as YouTube as a
Yeah.
platform. We had quite a lot of views. If I'm not mistaken, within the first 2 days, we had like 155,000 views on Facebook. But anyway, it's not what this record deserved. And that was the day when the Napalm Records actually approached us and offered to release this show as a live album.
Oh,
I think if everything had worked properly that day, and we had it on YouTube, this album would never happen. But only because of the fact that it failed, because it's nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. It just happened like that. Nobody could expect that YouTube algorithm would come and block it. Yeah, only
a perfect storm. I mean, if there was no pandemic, and if the stream didn't fail, we wouldn't have Alive in Melbourne by Jinjer.
Of course, yeah, it's exactly what I was trying to say. So we as people need to learn how to find positive things even in the worst situation. The pandemics is a terrible tragedy, terrible tragedy for the mankind, all the people around the world, all those who were affected directly. They got sick, or their family members, yeah. And I'm not even saying about people who had somebody passed. That's awful. That's awful. But of course, we need to talk about things like the economic crisis, people losing their jobs, especially in our industry, music industry. Just thousands of people are leaving the industry because it is over for a long period of time. It is just stopped. Yeah, venues get closed. I actually, before this interview, got to know that a very old venue, that very venue where we played our Kyiv show here in the city, in Kyiv, it is closed now forever.
Wow.
This venue doesn't exist anymore. So talking about all these bad things which happened this year, we need to learn how to find good sides of it. And one of the good sides for me personally and for the band is that we actually have this live album. Or talking about my private life, because of the pandemics, I didn't tour, and I had a chance to stay with my wife and see my second son born in the States. If there had been no pandemics, I would be in Norway that very day he was born. So there are good things everywhere. There are
Yeah,
good things everywhere.
you just have to find them. They're there. You just have to find them.
Yeah, exactly.
The set list for this live album, it's 15 tracks plus the intro and the outro, so it takes you a total of 17. Was this the set list that you guys used for the whole tour in Australia, or was there some songs added specifically for this night?
No, that was exactly what we were playing throughout the whole Australian tour. This is what we played in Israel before Australia, and this is what we played in El Salvador, Guatemala, and 3 shows in Mexico. And this is what we were planning to play in the United States. We were also planning to add Prophecy on top of these 15 songs, and maybe even Pose and Death, so that we would be able to play macro from A to Z, in full, yeah. But unfortunately, our plans never came to life.
Yeah, that's a shame. Are you guys planning any live stream? Everybody's doing live streams now, or are you guys thinking about it?
My personal opinion about live streams.
I can see it in your face.
Yeah, I cannot say it's a bad idea. Definitely, it is better than nothing. But I think that we were lucky to play those 6 shows, social distancing shows in Germany and Switzerland this September.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. How was that experience as well?
Man, I am happy we did it, because after 10 years, when all this shit will be long gone, we would be one of those few bands. Just I can count it with one hand. Yeah, we would be one of those few bands who actually played during the pandemics under, of course, these limiting regulations and rules. But we did it. We did it, and it's a good experience. Especially, the best thing about those shows was the eyes of the fans. How happy they were to see us on stage. How happy they were to experience live music, no matter what. It was a good sign that music actually is alive, no matter what. And this is what makes those shows special for me, and I think hopefully for the others. I loved it, and who knows? If things do not change, if things do not come down in terms of the spread of the disease and like things like that, maybe we'll have to play social distancing shows next year again, and I will gladly do that. I don't see anything bad in this. And I believe that, getting back to the point of live streams, that live streams should be like last resort. Bands need to play live streams if only there is no other way to perform. If there is a chance to perform a social distancing show, I would better go and play a social distancing show, and then film it and put it online. This is what we did. When we were playing the pre-last show on that short mini tour in September, we just live streamed it for free for the people, just see it, and that's it. Yeah, and we were happy to do that. Yeah, of course, if things even go worse and there is no other way, like no social distances shows even, then maybe we will do a live stream. Who knows? Yeah. What can be good in live streams is that I think you need to have a different approach to this. For me, a perfect live stream should not be just a show on stage with lights. No, it must be something different. You just need to you must do this in a different way to make it stand out, to make it different from your average show. First of all, it's a good idea to interact with fans, because you can answer just various questions asked by fans in between songs or in between parts of the show. Yeah, you just you might have a break and talk to
divide
people.
the show like in 3 parts or something, and have
Yeah,
like a Q&A in between.
Exactly. Or you can find an interesting location. It may be a studio. It may be very intimate. Yeah, and it will make things different. And also, what is good at live streams, I think, is that maybe it is a good opportunity to play something long forgotten, something very, very old, and tracks which a band might not have played for a very long time. So it can be a good reason. It can be a good reason to remember those old tracks. So, so again, if things go wrong and there are no shows next year, we'll definitely think about doing a live stream. Yeah, but so far, this is not what we are aimed at.
I was thinking the other day, I was watching the Pisces video. It's been a long time since I seen that video. I was watching it the other day for nostalgic reasons. And I was like, how cool would it be if you guys went back and did something similar to that, like a live session kind of thing, almost like a jam session in that kind of setting. I'm not saying that song, because obviously you guys have done that song before, but perhaps some of the more hidden gems that you guys have that are not, like you said, not part of the set list or something like that. Is that something that appeals to you, to kind of go back to the vault, considering how popular that video was, that format was, do something almost like unplugged?
You are reading my thoughts, to be honest. First of all, that video is still popular.
Yes,
1 million views every month. Yeah. Secondly, we were approached by our management, and we talked about a possibility to do a live stream just a few days ago. And we all agreed that if we decide to do this, it will be something like that, something very intimate, small room, us sitting in front of each other, and maybe even same location we had for Pisces, maybe, because it looks good and it will bring this, like you said, nostalgia. Also, if we decide to do that, we will make the set list very special. It will make no sense to play these exactly 15 songs we did for Alive in Melbourne. It will make no sense to play songs we played last year for Americans. You were there. In Canada, I mean, and in the United States, or the same songs we played in Europe. We will make it special from the point of view of the set list for the show. So, talking about Unplugged, we actually we were thinking about this. We were thinking about preparing an Unplugged show for the spring, for this next spring. But then we just set the priorities when we realized, especially having what we are having now. We are writing tons of new material at the moment. We are writing
ask you about that. I mean, everybody's stuck with this pandemic. You can't tour. You can't do anything. Are you guys working on the follow-up to Macro?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I will talk about this now. But just before that, I wanted to add that
the Unplugged.
Understanding that we are now in the middle, or even deeper than the middle, of creating a follow-up for Macro, a new record. We just set the priorities and we realize that it is not the perfect time for an Unplugged, because Unplugged will eat tons of time. You need to change the arrangements for songs. Even if we play 6-7 shows for a short Unplugged show, it's just too much time and effort. And we understood that making a new record is just more important, especially considering how good new songs are and the direction we are going. And we decided to set the priority at a new record, just aim at a new record, and devote ourselves fully at for the new record. This is what we are doing now. Definitely, at some point in the future, we will do an Unplugged. This is already on the list. Yeah, to do things list, yeah, but not this spring for sure. Now we're working on the new record, and yeah, exactly. Just answering your question, we're working on the follow up, and we have more than half of the album.
You have
Thanks,
more
bro.
than half?
Yeah, more than half. Yeah, we have 8 songs.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, musically, as always. We don't know what Tatiana and where is doing, and where is she now in terms of the lyrics and her vocal lines. Yeah, but we have so many songs musically, and this time, considering the fact that we have tons of free time, there are no tours. We managed to make all our previous albums, like King of Everything and Micro and Macro, within very short periods of time in between tours, usually over just 2-3 months being at home. But this time we have so much free time that we can do things differently. This time we are doing pre-production fully for all the songs. We practice it well before we will go to the studio. And we are also planning to have even the vocals pre-recorded for the pre-production, and so that we can have options, so that we can listen to it and decide whether this works well and this maybe not well enough. And so this record will be much different from everything we did before.
Let me ask you this. I saw the cover that you, Tatiana, did with Suicide Silence, that Nirvana song that you guys fooled around with, and I thought that was really cool. Is there something that you would like to do in the future, perhaps a collaboration with somebody from a band, and include that collaboration on a record, or you like the Jinjer albums to be just Jinjer and leave that kind of stuff just for fun?
Well, I have a very, how can I say, my personal attitude and my personal opinion about collaborations might not be very popular, because I don't really like it. Let me explain why. I think that the main reason why people do collaborations is just cross-promotion. It's just cross-promotion. And there is no creativity and art behind it in most of the cases. I believe that we as a band will invite somebody or do a collaboration just to cut it short, only in case if we strongly know that this person will perfectly fit for this song, that this person will bring something special. And we, of course, I mean, let's imagine there is a certain vocalist and we must hear this vocalist on this track. We must, all musicians know what I'm talking about. If you're a composer, you hear something inside your head even before you play it. Even before you write a song to the end, you know how it will sound, more or less, right here. And if you have this about a certain vocalist or a certain guitarist or just a musician about this and this and that song, then we will invite somebody to work with us. And we will not do this just to, get more hype.
Yeah.
And I'm not pointing my fingers at anyone. I'm not here to judge. It's just my opinion. Don't judge me when I'm saying
No.
this
It's a
openly.
fair opinion, and that's why I ask you, because I think I don't disagree with you. I think a lot of that happens, and sometimes it's just a way of two bands promoting each other. One promotes to the other fan base, and the other one promotes it to the other fan base, and vice versa, and it kind of creates some hype around it. I just don't know. I agree with you. I just don't know how much honesty and how organic that situation really is.
To give you a perfect example, I really love how, even though I'm not a big fan of Tool and Deftones, but Tool vocalist singing on that track, Deftones track, was a perfect example of collaboration. And we would like to have something like that. When just it is perfect. This is exactly how it must be. Or when we feel that this or that song is not complete
Until you put that
without
piece in.
until you put that person in. This is the only way a collaboration must be in Jinjer. Yeah, the only way.
I have one last question for you. I don't want to take any more of your time.
It's all right. It's all right. I still have kind of 10 minutes or so.
So my last question for you is perhaps more of a business side of things. So during this pandemic, I think sometimes what's happening to bands is a little bit not forgotten, but there's so much stuff happening that we don't necessarily hear the honest truth from bands in terms of how this is really impacting them. Some bands are honest about it, and some bands are not so honest about it. How much of an impact has this pandemic had on the band?
I can speak about me personally because let me structure just it well. Okay, I think that from my personal experience, the worst impact we have had so far is the uncertainty the pandemic is bringing to this world. So you just don't know what to expect. You cannot make your plans. You cannot plan anything. Yeah, I'm looking at the next summer festivals as a sort of the light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm not sure they're going to happen. And I know perfectly that it will be such a blow to the whole industry, music industry, if festivals are not happening. And I know perfectly that it will be a blow. We will feel that blow too. We'll feel that blow too, and it will throw us back a few years. We were struggling and working that hard over these 7 years, not to be thrown back. But this is what will happen in case there are no more festivals and shows in 2021. And this is the biggest problem. This fear, this uncertainty, this is the biggest problem I experienced myself. And everything else is not as important as this thing. Also, of course, financially, I can honestly say that we've lost tons of money. Most of our income was shows, was tours,
Merch, shows.
Yeah, and merchandise sold at
shows,
those. Yeah, and it's like we are not getting 75% of our income because we're not playing. But it is not the worst situation. We still get fans support us well, buying merch online or listening to us on stream platforms. So we get some royalties. We manage to survive, uh, and there is nothing to complain about financially.
Do you think that this pandemic, who you think is hitting the hardest? Is it hitting the big bands, the middle bands, or the low bands?
Middle middle bands, and I'll explain why. If we're talking only about musicians, middle bands and maybe slightly more than middle are those who suffer most, because the beginners and small bands, they still have their jobs, part-time or full-time jobs aside from music, and they have the other sources of income. And the next step, those bands who already left behind all their daily jobs, they only switch to music, yeah, and that was the only way for them to make their living. These people are those who suffer the most. And big bands, just high profile, they will anyway go through this. They make enough money anyway.
Yeah,
So
for them taking a year or 2 years off is not a big deal.
this is what they already did. This is what
I
they
was just,
already did.
I was
Yeah,
just gonna say that. I mean, like Metallica, not touring for a year or two, it's not a big deal. When the tours start, they go on in one tour, they'll make up the money for those 2 years.
exactly. Yeah, but I don't think that the musicians, even this middle range of bands, that they are the ones who suffer most. I think that most of all, this situation it is hitting crew, people, venues, promoters, and bookers. Uh, I mean, local bookers, and bookers for the bands too, because these people are left without their job at all, and they need to do something else. And once they start doing something else, there is always a chance that they will never get back.
Yeah,
And
I
this
agree.
is, I said in one of the interviews in the summer that we will see the real consequences of the pandemics for the music only after the pandemics is over. It will be like speaking figuratively. It will be like, you've spent all this pandemic sitting in a room, uh, each of us, and then when the pandemic is over, we'll all go outside to see each other, and then we will see how many of those people are not there anymore.
I agree with you because you said it, man, you really hit the nail on the head. From what I stand, I see it the same way. Like venues, the crews, the tour crews, the crews at the venues, all of these people are really impacted. And as you said, in Kiev, a venue closed down. In Toronto, we had one of the venues closed down already, announced that they're closing forever.
I saw it. You reposted the news
Yeah.
item. I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then the issue is, like you said, once the pandemic is over, let's say things go back to normal, but then you don't have the same amount of venues. You don't have the same amount of people to put the shows together. And you're going to have everybody wanted to go on tour at the same time. So you're also going to have that problem because then people don't have money to go see 5 bands in 1 week. You have to pick, okay, do I go see Jinjer? Do I go see Opeth? Do I go see somebody else? So the aftermath of the pandemic is really going to show us how much damage was done by the actual pandemic.
Yeah, and it's all well connected. All these things which we are talking about, they are well connected. Let me explain what I mean. Uh, Now everybody understands that when the pandemic is over, everybody will go on tour. Everybody will go on tour, and that's why bands are trying to stay connected with their fans. They are not to lose hype, and they all start making content. Everybody is making tons of content now, all bands. And what is happening? There is so much content now that it is you were mentioning this. It is very hard for fans to find something worthy, yeah, because there is so much happening. The bands are releasing videos, live streams, new official videos, everything. Yeah, everything. Yeah, and it is creating another problem. The market is overloaded with content.
Yeah,
And
I see.
next year,
And
next
it's
year
going to
it's going to
be
be
right now the content is online. It's already overloaded, but then it's going to be overloaded once it's on the road and tours and festivals and shows. I think one of the solutions, bands are going to have to get together and almost have like a tour festival where you play the sets that you play are like festival sets. So you're playing like 40-minute sets and the tour has 4 or 5 bands together. I think that's
it's a
going to
good
be a
idea.
good solution.
It's a good idea. It's a good idea because in case of us, we since the beginning of the situation in the North America, we had to reschedule our spring tour, and we had Plan B, Plan C, and even maybe Plan D. I don't know. I need to ask Daz about this.
You're running
Yeah.
out of letters in the alphabet.
So we have now the tour is scheduled for it's an exclusive piece of information, but we are having this tour is scheduled for next fall 2021, and hopefully shows will be back by that time. But if not, we already have dates secured for the spring 2022. But it's us who managed to do so in a short period of time, quickly, when we reacted to the situation. Imagine how many more bands didn't have this chance, and they don't have a chance to find a venue because half of the venue is closed, half of the venue is booked. Yeah. What's the way out for them? What's the way, what are they to do now? Yeah, because everybody will want to play. And also, I was trying to say that next year is going to be a very interesting year for music industry. Imagine
next year. I think next year is going to be a shit show because everybody is holding up their album. Well, not everybody, but a lot of people are holding up their albums to release them next year, hoping that there's a tour towards the end of the year so they can tour off of that album. Next year,
True.
Every Friday, you're going to have 10, 15 bands releasing a new album every Friday. Like, it's going to be so much music that fans are just going to tune it off. You know, there's just going to be too much.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. On the other hand, there is no other way for the bands.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, you're between a rock and a hard place, honestly. Like,
exactly.
A band that, the way I look at it, if you released a full-length album this year and the tours come back next year you have to release at least an EP. Because otherwise it almost feels like you're touring on an old album. Do you know what I mean? Like you need.
I believe me, I know perfectly what you're talking about because this is what happened to us. We released the Macro just 1 year ago. By this time, we're talking to each other now. It's an old album. It's an old album. Yeah, and it is already outdated, and it is already not. Yeah, this is not what we can go on tour and play now. It won't work like that. Yeah, so basically this is what happened to us. We released a very good album which got wonderful reactions both by fans and critics, and boom, the world got locked down. So we threw this album to nowhere. And but we already swallowed that. But if this happens again, it's not a big tragedy. We are, creative enough to bring more music. But anyway, how much longer we will be losing this, opportunities, momentum. Yeah, of course it's not good for a band, any band, not only Jinjer. Yeah, this is what again. This is getting back to the problems created by the pandemics: uncertainty and fear.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I don't think we're going to know the full extent until this is over, and then we're going to be left to pick up the pieces. But it's the way it's going to be. There's no other way around it.
Exactly.
Well, Eugene, thank you very much for your time today, man. It was it's always a pleasure to sit down and talk to you. I have so much fun when I sit down and I talk to you about Jinjer, about music. And today we talked about a lot of different things, but the thing that brought us together was Alive in Melbourne, out November 20th. Go pick it up. Support these guys. Get the live album. I really enjoyed it. I'm not a huge fan of live albums. I'll be honest with you. I prefer a live DVD because I like to see the band play. But this album, I could close my eyes and I could see you guys play, because you guys did a wonderful job transporting the energy of that room into the live recording.
Thanks, Pedro. This is what makes my night special. Yeah, just listening to you now, because this is the perfect compliment. This is a perfect compliment. If you just listen to the music and recreate how it happened visually, then we did our job well. Thanks.
You did. You did. Thank you, Eugene. All the best. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Give a kiss to your newborn son. Well, not newborn anymore, but he's still a baby. Give him a kiss. Give him a kiss from me. And all the best for you and your wife and your family. Stay safe and stay healthy.
You too, bro. Yeah, it was cool to see you and chat with you. Yeah, let's keep in touch. You too. Bye.
Bye.